'Cause tonight will be the night that I will fall for you over again. Don't make me change my mind.
Sí, claro, como bien mencionó, mi acceso dentro del UFC ha sido muy rápido, pero eso es trabajo de años, ¿no? Yo cuando estuve afuera del UFC pues he trabajado muy duro pues para este momento.
Oh, hell no.
Bruh.
UFC 314 is this weekend, and listen to this card is a fire, amazing, great card. It's relief, dude, after some absolutely horrendous fight nights. But I'm gonna be giving you guys my predictions for every fight on the main card except the main event, because, you know, let's be honest, guys, that warrants its own video, as well as my predictions for some of the preliminary bouts. Before we get into it though, make sure to subscribe, because we are trying to hit 800 subscribers by the end of the year. It would mean a lot. Thanks. The first fight I do want to talk about is Chase Hooper versus Jim Miller, dude. Jim Miller, the ultimate crafty vet, taking on Chase Hooper, who's on a 4-fight winning streak, dude. His last win coming against Clay Guida. He submitted another crafty vet, but I'm gonna be honest, guys, I do not think Chase Hooper is gonna submit Jim Miller, dude. Jim Miller has, I believe, the most UFC submissions in history. So I don't know how Chase Hooper is gonna approach this, dude. Is he really gonna want to take Jim Miller down? But I think the way we gotta look at it is Jim Miller really gonna want to take Chase Hooper down, dude? Because Chase Hooper, like I just said, just submitted Clay Guida. Before that he submitted Borshkev. Before that he submitted Jordan Leavitt. So the last 3 fights he's had, he submitted them. He submitted 8 people in his 15 fights, and he's knocked like 4 people out. So he has a pretty good ratio to finishes. And I don't know, is Jim Miller really good? You know, I say he's good. I say he's a crafty vet, but we can't forget, before his fight against, I forgot who Jim Miller fought last, but before Jim Miller's last fight at UFC 309, that guy got pieced up by King Green, dude. And Bobby Green, well, his last couple fights, they haven't gone so well. So that loss for Jim Miller has aged horribly. And I just don't know how good he is now, dude. I honestly do not know how good he is. So for this one, I am going to go with Chase Hooper. You know, I think Jim Miller has the craftiness. He has the ability to take this to the distance and maybe not get submitted by Chase Hooper. So Chase Hooper by decision. The next fight I do want to talk about, dude, it's going to be the featured fight of the prelims. It's a good one, dude. Dan the Man Ige, that's my nickname for him, and Sean Woodson. Oh, I don't even know who I'm going to pick on this one, if I'm being honest, dude. Sean Woodson has the reach. Sean Woodson is the weirdest built UFC fighter out there. And Dan Ige had an okay showing against Lerone Murphy. He dropped Lerone Murphy, but overall lost that. And obviously before that fight, he lost Diego Lopez when he took that fight on like 2 hours notice. So, you know, that's not his fault. But Sean Woodson, dude, Sean Woodson's coming off a win over who? I forgot the guy's name. It was some Spanish kid. But Sean Woodson knocked that guy out in a round. Sean Woodson looked good. And I don't know how Dan Ige is going to do, dude. I do want to say that Sean Woodson's going to win. I like Sean Woodson, but something's telling me that Dan Ige is going to pull this off. Give me Dan Ige by 2nd round TKO. Let's move on to the main card. The main card, the first fight of the main card that I do want to talk about, Nikita Krylov versus Dominic Reyes. Obviously, we had Jeff Neal versus Carlos Prates here before, but that got canceled. Nikita Krylov versus Dominic Reyes. I'm still deciding on some of these. You know, most of the bigger fights I have decided already, but Nikita Krylov versus Dominic Reyes, you know, I watched tape on Nikita Krylov. I watched his fight against Ryan Spann. Nikita Krylov was low-key getting pieced up by Ryan Spann, dude. Ryan Spann was scrambling all over Nikita Krylov. You know, Nikita Krylov is supposed to be the guy that Magomed Ankalaev has to watch out for. But Dominic Reyes, dude, don't forget about Dominic Reyes. You know, I don't know how chinny Dominic Reyes is after, like, losing 3 fights in a row by KO before his winning streak. So how good is Dominic Reyes' chin? I mean, Anthony Smith is not really the type of guy to test Dominic Reyes' chin. Dominic Reyes staying active, though. I don't know. Nikita Krylov's coming off a 2-year layoff, but I just feel like, I'm going to do it. Dominic Reyes, dude, don't forget what Dominic Reyes did to John Jones. He has good takedown defensive. Nikita Krylov is going to try to take this to the floor. And for some reason, I can see Dominic Reyes getting like a TKO, a weird stoppage, maybe a doctor stoppage, maybe a freaky finish, like a finish where Nikita Krylov's not completely out, maybe an early stoppage. Dominic Reyes, though, we'll say, first round, something's going to happen crazy in this fight. I just know it. But Dominic Reyes by 1st round TKO. The next fight, this fight is the people's main event for UFC 314. Bryce Mitchell taking on Silva. And I'm going to be talking about this fight for a solid minute, dude. because this is such a good fight. You know, Gene Silva, I made a video about him a couple months ago after his win to Melchik, Bangladesh, and Gene Silva knocked him out. He looked great. I said Gene Silva was a future champion. So when you have a future champion on your hands, an excellent striker with decent takedown defense, what you do not want to give him is a hands-on grappler, Bryce Mitchell. You do not want to give Gene Silva Bryce Mitchell, who is one of the best jiu-jitsu specialists in the UFC. This is not a good matchup for Gene Silva, dude. This is a really bad matchup for Gene Silva. And I can just see Bryce Mitchell just fighting better out of pure anger. You know, we see some fighters who literally just fight better out of pure anger, like Merab Dvalishvili, like John Jones. I don't know if this is going to be the case with Bryce Mitchell or not. A lot of people say you fight bad when you're fighting out of anger. And, you know, I'm yet to see a valid example of that, dude. I think Bryce Mitchell feels disrespected. Bryce Mitchell feels like Gene Silva has ruined his life. And Bryce Mitchell's going to come in hot, dude. Bryce Mitchell, I can see Bryce Mitchell landing some good shots on Gene Silva on the feet. Bryce Mitchell is probably going to take this down if he needs to, dude. Again, Gene Silva didn't look that good against Jordan Levitt. He got taken down a couple times, dude. I think I got to go with Bryce Mitchell here. This is an upset. I think Bryce Mitchell is the underdog by a lot. Bryce Mitchell is my prediction, dude. I'm going to go with decision for Bryce Mitchell. And you know by the end of this fight, both of these guys are going to be hugging. Bryce Mitchell's going to step on the microphone. This guy's a real fighter, dude. This guy took me to distance, brother. And yeah, dude, I can just see that. Bryce Mitchell is my prediction by decision. The next fight I do have. Oh my God, this card is so good, dude. This card is so good. The next fight I do have, Yair Rodriguez versus Patricio Pitbull. You know, I just rewatched the fight, Yair Rodriguez versus Alexander Volkanovski, and I kind of forgot how Volk dominated Yair Rodriguez, dude. I'm gonna be honest with you. You know, I watched the Michael Chandler versus Patricio Pitbull as I was studying tape for this card, and it wasn't much to study. It was a pretty quick fight. Patricio Pitbull, similar build to Volk. You know, people aren't realizing that Patricio Pitbull and Volk are built very similarly. And Volk absolutely embarrassed Yair Rodriguez. You know, I will say Yair Rodriguez did better in that third round against Volk when he was utilizing his leg kicks. So Yair Rodriguez has to be using his leg kicks frequently. And I don't know, dude. Patricio Pitbull. We know that these Bellator guys coming into the UFC have plot armor. Lucas Tracy talked about it. MVP coming into the UFC, he beat Kevin Holland. Michael Chandler coming into the UFC, he KO'd Dan Hooker. These guys low-key have plot armor. And for some reason, Patricio Pitbull getting like some weird decision. Maybe it's a close decision, but I feel like they're gonna give it to Patricio Pitbull, dude. Something's saying that, dude. This guy has power in his hands. He can submit you. And Yair Rodriguez, he's a great kickboxer. He's a great kickboxer, and people have forgotten how good Yair Rodriguez is at kickboxing. But Patricio Pitbull, I watched some tape on him before. And I'm honestly excited to say that I think Patricio Pitbull is going to take this from Yair Rodriguez, dude. I'm going to go with decision on this fight, too. Yeah, man, that might be a hot take. I'm picking some underdogs here, so hopefully I don't go like 0-6 on the main card. But still, the final fight I will be predicting today is Michael Chandler versus Paddy Pimblett. I've watched the most tape on this fight by far, dude. I've watched so many fights of Michael Chandler. I mean, it's not hard because his fights are like 2 minutes long. But Paddy Pimblett, I watched his fight against, Verdadroma or something like that. I forget. It was an Italian guy. I think it was one of Paddy's first fights in the UFC. And Paddy Pimblett was getting pieced up. Paddy's guard, it's so separated. It's such a weird guard Paddy has. Paddy's striking is so green. I don't know if he's going to be able to do this, dude. Michael Chandler is a vet. You know, I would dare say Michael Chandler is a crafty vet. Michael Chandler has so many tools that he doesn't utilize as much as he should. His front kick's amazing. His takedowns are amazing. His jab is amazing. But Michael Chandler gets stupid and just brawls. You know, in his last fight against Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler was patient. But it was too patient for Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler is not that patient. That's not the type of fighter he is. So if Michael Chandler wants to win this, he has to mix in everything. He has to mix in his old fighting style versus his new fighting style. He has to be patient at times, but he also has to be aggressive at times. Paddy Pimblett has insane jiu-jitsu, dude. He can throw something up if he needs to. And Paddy Pimblett, he has some weird striking. He curves his striking very much. It's very weird striking. Paddy Pimblett, a key to victory for Paddy Pimblett, I will say, is that he has to use leg kicks, dude. Michael Chandler's stance, it's really wide, dude. His legs are so far apart, and part of that is because he's so explosive. But if Paddy Pimblett can start the leg kicks early and just tear that inside foot open, well, then Michael Chandler is going to have some problems exploding off that. So Paddy Pimblett needs to exploit the leg kick first. I I don't know, dude. Michael Chandler has serious power. Paddy Pimblett, he's a scouser. He does not get knocked out. But honestly, I am going to go with Michael Chandler for this one, dude. I'm sorry, dude. I'm not going to forget how good Michael Chandler is. Every single fight Michael Chandler's been in, Dustin Poirier, he was about to win against Dustin Poirier. He rocked Dustin Poirier. Gaethje, he rocked Gaethje. He was about to win against Gaethje. Charles Oliveira, twice. He was about to win against Charles Oliveira, and he lost. It's so frustrating watching this guy fight, but Michael Chandler has to mix in his fighting styles. Paddy Pimblett, I don't see much going for him, dude. I don't see Chandler getting submitted. You know, if Charles Oliveira couldn't submit Chandler, then why is Paddy Pimblett going to submit Chandler? And yeah, dude, Michael Chandler, he's a scouser, so he's not going to knock out Paddy Pimblett. But Michael Chandler by decision, dude. I feel like I've said a lot of decisions on this main card, so maybe this will be a little bit of an underwhelming card because of the expectations of it. But I'm excited, dude. I'm not going to be able to give an immediate reaction because I have high school prom after. But still, dude, I'm excited. Thank you boys for watching. MMA Outpost out.